I do not seek to rule my brethren. I only seek to release them from their chains. The Architect is a unique Darkspawn emissary. So unique that there are 6 more that are basically the same, but that's beside the point. He appears to not be under the influence of the call of the old gods, having free will and a mind of his own. Let's start at the beginning, however. Before being turned into the sexiest man alive, the Architect was a high priest in ancient Tevinter. In this case, the high priest of Urthemiel, the Dragon of Beauty. He was approached by the high priest of Dumat, Sethius Amladaris. They, along with the high priests of the other 5 gods, eventually breached the veil and walked physically into the Fade. I won't go into much detail about that here, but I'll do a video on that as well. After being thrown back into the waking world, all 7 of them had turned into the models they are now. Unlike Corypheus, however, the Architect seems to have forgotten who he was before being tainted. A metric fuckton of time passed and he is first seen again around 2004 TE. Bragan, the former Warden-Commander of Olay, went to his calling into the deep roads, yet was captured by the Darkspawn instead of killed. He later wakes up in Kulbaras. The Architect describes his plan to Bragan, in hopes of winning him over to his side. He wants to bring peace to the races of THEDAS and the Darkspawn by bringing everyone to a middle ground. At first, his plan is to make the whole world take the TAINT, eventually turning all of them into Grey Wardens, who in the end turn into something of a Darkspawn hybrid. He acknowledges the amount of lives that would cost, but sees it as a necessary sacrifice on the way to peace. He eventually learns how to free other Darkspawn from the call of the old gods as well, in a process similar to that of the joining. But something feels wrong, doesn't it? My theory is that he's just bullshitting us all. Take this with a grain of salt, and make your own picture. This is just something I came up with at about 3 in the night. Let's list what he has done and is planning. He plans to spread the taint across all THEDAS, captured and turned the former Warden-Commander of Olay to his side, frees Darkspawn from the Old God command, and awakens an Old God and starts the 5th Blight. Starting with the first. Spreading the taint is typical Darkspawn mentality. Their goal is to either kill or turn everyone. It's the reason they look for the old gods in the first place. He captured a former Warden-Commander that went to his calling. In The Calling, the book, we learn that because of his free mind, the other Darkspawn fear him and obey his commands to a degree. But he's an emissary, a stunningly powerful mage that is further empowered by the taint. Much like Corypheus is able to mentally enslave Grey Wardens, and even a High Dragon. Who says that the Architect isn't able to enslave simple-minded Hurlocks? Furthermore, the Warden he had captured instead of killed happens to be one of the few that knows the locations of the remaining old gods. Bragan was already on his calling, so the taint inside him was already in an advanced state. This would make it easier for the Architect to influence his mind and convince him to join his side. He needed Bragan to keep his memories and his mind, otherwise the information he was truly after, the locations of the prisons, would be lost. He speeds up the spread of the taint inside Bragan, so the Architect is capable of using blood magic, which means he is also able to use it to turn people into his puppets. It takes a strong mind, or another mage, to break the enthralling of blood magic. Bragan had none. He was barely conscious, and his mind was being corrupted by the sun. People enthralled by a blood mage don't even notice it themselves. He freed Hurlocks from the control of the old gods. We first see them at Vigil's Keep, where they slaughtered nearly the entire castle. According to him, they misunderstood his order and only wanted to capture the Warden-Commander alive. But who says that's true? First of all, the Withered arrived at Vigil's Keep with a small army. You don't bring an army to a peaceful meeting. The Architect later tells us that his slaughter of the keep was likely an act of self-defense, which is also bullshit, since the survivor that we meet just in the beginning tells us that a sneak attack was launched against the Wardens. It is true that humans attack Darkspawn on sight almost all the time, but should the Architect truly have wanted peace, he could have told them to go to Vigil's Keep with hands raised above their heads. They're able to speak. If they don't have weapons on them and shout that they want to talk or surrender, then the Wardens would at least not murder them on sight. Or you know they might, because they're fucking Grey Wardens. The people sworn to kill every last one of them, so approaching them in the first place is a horrible idea. Lastly, there is my favorite reason why he might be bullshitting us. He awakened an old god and turned it into an archdemon. So the first problem with that is he likely only captured Bragan since he knew the location of the old gods. After he lost both of his Grey Wardens, at least the two that were able to talk, he then went on to awaken the dragon by injecting Grey Warden blood into it. He was hoping that this would turn it into a disciple. Only problem with that is the disciples only get their free will because they're already tainted. The architect is an expert on the blight. He should have known that just giving the untainted dragon tainted blood should be a horrible idea if he truly wants peace. It might have worked if the Darkspawn had tainted and awakened it first and then given it the Grey Warden blood. There's still a chance that that could have fucked it up even more though. But even if that was an honest mistake, his plan is still suspicious as hell. Originally he wanted to free the Darkspawn from their control, to find and kill the old gods, to prevent future blights. Now, instead he accidentally awakens one by corrupting it himself. Bragan must have told him the location of at least one, if not the other remaining two as well. You know which old god he ended up awakening? Rutheniel, the very same god he worshipped before being turned into a Darkspawn. Purely coincidence, I'm sure. That's all nice and all, but I killed it, so what's the point? You might say. But did you? At the end of the calling, his hand gets cut off by Bragan. In awakening, he's seen with two hands. So either Darkspawn have extremely good corporeal regeneration, up to the point where they can regenerate entire hands, or he possesses the same ability Corypheus has. Meaning, when he dies, his essence travels through any blighted creature, Darkspawn or Grey Warden. We've seen with Larius that it's possible to remain in one's body without immediately taking on his old form. He might not have a dragon, like Cory, at least not one we've seen. If the immortality came from infusing his being into the dragon, the architect might be smarter and keep that creature hidden. Assuming my rambling here isn't just a load of crap, what are his plans then? Well, giving the Darkspawn the ability to think and plan, as seen by the sneak attack on Witcher's Keep, would give them even ground against the other races. Instead of being mindless beasts, they would be a nearly endless horde of soldiers. And awakening an old god on top of that to start a blight would make for a serious threat to the surface. If that wasn't his plan, he could also have wanted to awaken the old god in hopes of appeasing it. Getting the favor of the god you worshipped would be a big ego boost. Or, as was the case with the other Darkspawn, turning it into a disciple in hopes that it would give him control over it. Let me know what you think. I'd love some good discussions.